When AC Milan parted ways with Vincenzo Montella in November 2017, there were few people who expected his replacement to be club legend and internationally revered hardman Gennaro Gattuso. Although he did have some managerial experience in the lower divisions of Italian football, Gattuso had impressed the ownership at Milan with a short stint in charge of the Primavera, Milan's under-19s team, who he began coaching in May last year. Since taking over at the San Siro, Gattuso has failed to improve the team's standing in Serie A. However, there has been a marked improvement in performances during his tenure, and Milan find themselves within touching distance of the European qualification spots as the season comes to a close. During his first season at the club, Vincenzo Montella predominantly favoured a 4-3-3 formation, which largely suited the personnel available to him. After the club was bought out by a Chinese investment management group early in 2017, they went on a spending spree in the summer, which saw a number of marquee signings arrive in Milan. With Leonardo Bonucci added to the defensive ranks, and Nikola Kalinic and Andre Silva introduced as striking options alongside the promising youngster Patrick Cutrone, Montella shifted the formation to a 3-5-2 that permitted him to sit Bonucci in the centre of a back three, whilst allowing for two strikers in the lineup. Although Gattuso did look to replicate this formation when he first arrived at the club, he very quickly reverted to the 4-3-3 that Montella had originally favoured and has scarcely deviated from it since. With teenage goalkeeping sensation Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal, Gattuso lines up two centre-backs in front of him, Leonardo Bonucci and Alessio Romagnoli. Flanking these two defenders are fullbacks, David Calabria on the right and Ricardo Rodriguez on the left. In the midfield three, Lucas Biglia forms the holding role behind Giacomo Bonaventura and Frank Kessie, who is on loan at the club from Milan's Serie A rivals Atalanta. A front three completes the formation, spearheaded by one of Andre Silva or Nikola Kalinic, who are ably supported by former Liverpool duo Fabio Borini and Suso in the wide areas. In possession of the ball, Gattuso expects his team to engage in patient build-up play, which usually sees the ball passed into one of the two centre-backs to allow the team to shift into a more offensive structure. Despite lining up in a 4-3-3, in possession Milan adopt a situational 3-4-3, which sees the two fullbacks move into a more advanced position, with the defensive midfielder, usually Lucas Biglia, dropping in between the centre-backs. Unusually though, rather than the wide attackers coming inside to support the lone striker as the fullbacks offer width, under Gattuso, Milan's wide players, Fabio Borini and Suso, like to drop into deeper positions to pick up the ball. While this did mean that the centre-forward was left isolated for long periods in matches at the beginning of Gattuso's time at the club, he has ameliorated this problem by encouraging his two central midfielders to play a more dynamic role in the team, driving into the box to help out the lone striker. As a result, Milan are less likely to progress the ball in wide areas than they are to carry it through the central areas, only then moving it into wide positions where they look to hit the striker. Both Frank Kessie and Giacomo Bonaventura play this central midfield role well. Both are good ball carriers, they are both highly mobile with a good range of passing, and both can finish well inside the box. Given their increased attacking function in the team, it should come as no surprise that between them they account for about a third of Milan's goals in Serie A this season, 75% of which have come since Gattuso took over in November. This atypical interchange of central midfielders with wide attacking players does lead to problems for Milan when they're out of possession though. In the event of a turnover, Milan implement a relatively aggressive counter-pressing, assuming a 4-3-3 configuration before settling back into a 4-5-1 block, which sees the wide players drop in alongside the midfield three. However, in light of the fluidity of movement between the central midfielders and the wide forwards, at times a confusion can creep into the press, as players are unsure as to who is responsible for pressing whom. This regularly results in a scenario where the opposition are able to break the press quite comfortably, finding themselves with space in behind the midfield facing a Milan backline who have not yet organised themselves into a defensive structure. If Gennaro Gattuso can fix this defensive frailty, then AC Milan may be able to mount a challenge on the Champions League spots in Serie A next season.
If you want to learn more about AC Milan, find out about their news, their fixtures, or some of the more in-depth stats from the season so far, you can download the OneFootball app. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to download it. Thanks for watching.